imagine releasing an album, right? And it moves 91,000 units in its very first week.
Which is a huge debut.
Oh, absolutely huge. You hit #2 in the Billboard 200. You're like totally dominating the cultural conversation.
Yeah.
But out of those 91,000 units, only 1,000 people actually bothered to buy the record.
Wow. Yeah, just 1,000.
Right.
I mean, it completely shatters that old illusion of what it means to be a commercially viable musician. You don't need fans to buy your work anymore. You just need them to never hit pause.
Exactly. And that is exactly what we're getting into today. Welcome to the show, everyone, and a special welcome to you, the learner, for another custom-tailored deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Our mission today is to synthesize this really comprehensive Wikipedia article detailing Gunna's 2024 album, One of Wun.
Yeah, it's a fascinating one.
It really is. We are looking at a project that sits right at the intersection, and it's a frustrating intersection sometimes, of massive, undeniable commercial streaming success and, well, decidedly mixed critical reception.
Right. And as we unpack the sources today, I really want you, the listener, to actively think about your own media consumption.
Yeah, like how you actually listen.
Exactly. Think about the music you put on while you work or while you commute. How do we actually measure the value of art today?
That's the big question.
Is it through global numerical streaming dominance? Or is it through an artist's willingness to push their own creative boundaries? Because the data surrounding this specific album really forces us to choose between those two metrics.
It really does. So, okay, let's unpack this. Let's look at how this project actually entered the world.
Let's do it.
So, One of Wun is Gunna's 5th studio album. It was released on May 10th, 2024, under YSL Records and 300 Entertainment.
Right, following up his 2023 project.
Exactly, the direct follow-up to A Gift and a Curse. And instead of doing a surprise drop, which, has been a massive trend in hip-hop for like a decade now.
Oh yeah, everybody does the surprise drop.
Right, but Gunna's team took a very different approach here. They spent 2 solid months dripping out singles.
Like a breadcrumb trail.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You had Prada Dem featuring Offset. That dropped in mid-March. Then, like a month later, they do the artwork review.
Got to keep people talking.
Right. And then WhatsApp, spelled WASSAM, drops just a week before the album in early May. And finally, the title track hits U.S. Rhythmic Radio at the very end of May. Which, for the learner, Rhythmic Radio is those stations dedicated to upbeat crossover R&B and hip-hop.
What's fascinating here is that methodical rollout. It's a highly calculated reaction to the modern streaming ecosystem.
How so?
Well, a surprise drop is great for a massive one-week spike, right? But then the algorithm just moves on.
On to the next thing.
Exactly. By releasing a single in March, artwork in April, another single in early May, and then pushing a radio track in late May, his label is basically artificially extending the life cycle of the album. They are totally gaming the attention economy. They're feeding the algorithm just enough fresh data every few weeks to keep his monthly listener count elevated.
That's brilliant. It's like leaving a trail of high-end breadcrumbs to keep the audience hooked in this, like, totally attention deficit streaming era.
That's exactly what it is.
And it wasn't just digital engagement either. The source material points out that he embarked on the Bittersweet Tour and the One of Dem Nights Tour to support both A Gift and a Curse and One of Wun simultaneously.
Which is basically the physical component of that exact same retention strategy.
Right.
I mean, the turnaround time between his 2023 project and this 2024 project is incredibly quick. So think about it. You hear the lead single online,
Okay.
you buy the concert ticket, the new album drops just as the tour is ramping up, you go to the show, and then you stream the new album on the drive home.
Wow, so you're just totally immersed in it.
He is creating a closed, continuous loop of artist-to-fan engagement. He's making sure that there is never a quarter of the fiscal year where you aren't interacting with the Gunna brand.
That relentless marketing ecosystem, though, it naturally requires an equally relentless volume of music to feed it.
Oh, absolutely.
Which perfectly explains why this project is an absolute behemoth. I mean, we're talking about 20 tracks, clocking in at 57 minutes and 8 seconds.
It is a massive footprint for a single listen.
Huge. And the guest list is curated very deliberately to hit all these different demographic quadrants.
Yeah, you see that a lot now.
Right, you have the trap heavyweights you'd totally expect to see, like Offset on Prada Dem and Roddy Ricch on Let It Breathe. But then he pulls in pop and R&B star Normani on a track called Money Sign, Money Sign, Money Sign.
Right.
And maybe most surprisingly, he brings in soul and gospel-influenced artist Leon Bridges on the song Clear My Rain.
See, pulling in someone like Leon Bridges, that isn't just an artistic flex.
No.
No, it's a playlisting strategy.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, think about it. If you feature a soul artist on a trap album, that specific track now has the potential to be slotted into, like, neo-soul playlists.
Oh my gosh, of course.
Or R&B chill playlists, or mood-based acoustic playlists on all the major streaming platforms. It opens up entirely new algorithmic avenues for listeners who might not typically, queue up a 20-track trap album.
That makes so much sense. But to build a 57-minute project that can support that variety of artists, it takes an absolute army behind the boards.
Oh, a literal army.
The production roster listed in the sources is just staggering.
Yeah.
You have key levels from the trap scene like Turbo, Teddy Walton, Lawrence Dobson, Evergreen, and Kenny Stunton.
Yeah, heavy hitters.
But here's where it gets really interesting. I want to zero in on the very last track of the album.
Okay.
It's called Time Reveals, Be Careful What You Wish For. It is 6 minutes and 35 seconds long. And if you look closely at the credits in the source material, there are 8 different producers listed for that one single song. 8. I am genuinely struggling to understand how 8 different people produce one song without it turning into chaotic noise. Like, does having that many cooks in the kitchen guarantee a masterpiece, or does it just dilute the artist's personal voice?
Well, to understand why a track has 8 producers, we have to kind of pull back the curtain on how modern trap music is actually constructed today.
Okay, lay it on me.
It is fundamentally different from, like, a traditional band setup where 4 guys get in a room and jam.
Right.
Modern hip-hop at this commercial level relies on highly specialized, collaborative producer camps. It functions much more like a Detroit auto assembly line.
Wait, really, break that down for me. Who's doing what in that scenario?
So one producer might specialize entirely in creating atmospheric melody loops, say, like a reversed guitar sample.
Okay.
They send that file to another producer who is known strictly for their drum programming. This person adds the hi-hats and the snare bounce.
Just the drum?
Just the drums. Then a third producer, who specializes in the low-end frequencies, comes in to tune the 808 bass so it hits perfectly, whether you're listening on cheap earbuds or, a massive club speaker.
Wow.
Then you have an arranger who structures the verses and choruses, and maybe a couple of extra names who added a specific transition or like a sound effect.
So it isn't 8 guys fighting over keyboard. It's a literally compartmentalized factory process.
Exactly. It's designed to build a perfectly cohesive, mathematically airtight soundscape.
Right.
The problem with an assembly line, however, is that while it guarantees quality control, it naturally smooths out the rough edges.
And in art, the rough edges are usually where the emotion lives.
Precisely. This hyper-polished, committee-driven production methodology is exactly what makes the music structurally flawless, but it's also what sets up the exact critiques the album would later face. It risks becoming emotionally impenetrable.
Structurally flawless is a great way to describe his performance on the charts, though.
Very.
Because the commercial juggernaut of One of Wun is just undeniable. Let's look at the actual numbers here. The album debuted at number 2 on the U.S. Billboard 200, moving 91,000 album equivalent units in its first week.
Which is massive.
Right. And for the learner who might not stare at Billboard methodology all day, an album equivalent unit is a metric the industry invented because, well, nobody buys CDs anymore.
Yep.
They basically take all your digital streams and track downloads and use this math formula to convert them into a number that looks like a traditional album sale.
Yeah, and the standard formula right now is roughly 1,500 on-demand audio streams equals 1 album sale.
Which makes this next detail from the data absolutely wild.
Yeah.
Out of those 91,000 equivalent units, only 1,000 of them were pure album sales.
It's crazy.
That means actual people clicking buy on iTunes or purchasing a physical vinyl record, just 1,000. Meanwhile, the project racked up 118.5 million on-demand streams in just its first 7 days.
That ratio right there, that is the defining economic reality of the 2024 music industry.
Has to be.
You are looking at a consumer base that completely rejects the concept of ownership, but has an absolute insatiable appetite for access.
Yeah. The way I see it, the pure sales versus streams disparity completely redefines what a hit looks like today.
How do you mean?
Well, buying a pure album is basically like buying a collector's item DVD now. It is for the hyper-dedicated superfan who wants the physical object on their shelf.
Right, the diehards.
Exactly. But those 118.5 million streams, that is like having a global Netflix subscription. You don't own the movie, but it is constantly playing in the background of your life.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, that background play is happening everywhere. Consider the international data in our sources.
Oh yeah, it was everywhere.
Streaming has completely removed the physical barriers to entry for regional sounds. Atlanta trap music, which is a highly specific, geographically rooted subgenre, is now charting in places like Lithuania and Iceland.
That is just so cool to think about.
It went platinum in Canada, meaning it moved 80,000 units there. It went gold in the UK with 100,000 units, and gold in New Zealand, alongside top 10 chartings in Australia, Austria, the Netherlands, and Switzerland.
That's incredible.
10 years ago, an artist would have to convince a label to physically manufacture and ship CDs to shelves in Reykjavik to get those numbers. Today, an algorithm serves an Atlanta trap beat to a teenager in Iceland instantly.
It really is a global triumph.
Yeah.
Oh, and a fun piece of trivia from the charts. Gunna was actually blocked from the #1 spot on the Billboard 200 by Taylor Swift's The Tortured Poets department.
Yeah, tough competition.
Yeah, which spent a month at the top. But he did claim the #1 spot on the top R&B hip-hop albums chart, which is a massive win.
It is a win. But we have to look at the other side of the coin here.
Okay, yeah, let's do it.
While fans in Iceland and Switzerland were streaming it on a loop, the professional critics were listening with a very different ear, and they were not nearly as impressed by the numbers.
Yeah, which brings us to the critical divide. Let's look at the review from Pitchfork. So, Alphonse Pierre reviewed the album and gave it a 5.7 out of 10.
Ouch.
Right. He argued that the tracks on One of Wun sound exactly like catchy Gunna songs of the past, but they lack the feeling. I love this specific quote from his review, though. He says Gunna is going through the motions and reading straight off his Essence receipt.
That's brutal.
Now, for anyone who doesn't know, Essence is a massive, high-end, luxury fashion e-commerce platform. So Pierre's basically saying Gunna isn't rapping about his life. He's just lifelessly reading off a list of designer brands he recently purchased online.
It's a cut and critique because it attacks the authenticity of the project, you know?
Yeah.
Pierre is suggesting that those 8-person production teams provided the perfect aesthetic and Gunna provided the requisite luxury name-dropping, but the actual emotional core, the reason we actually connect with human art, is just completely missing.
Right, and it wasn't just Pitchfork. Demi Fellows over at Hot New Hip Hop echoed a very similar sentiment, though slightly more generously.
What did they say?
Well, Phillips praised Gunna's melodic prowess and noted that the production is polished and very cohesive.
Cohesive.
But there's that word again, cohesive. Phillips argues that over a 20-track album, this cohesion actually borders on monotonous. The review explicitly notes that there is a lack of specific lyrical depth and that the album doesn't venture into new territory that would help us understand Gunna's actual human experiences any better.
They are pointing directly at the inherent flaw of the algorithmic streaming model we were discussing earlier.
Wait.
To get 118.5 million streams, you really need a 20-track album. But sustaining genuine, emotionally vulnerable lyrical depth over 20 tracks, that is incredibly difficult.
Extremely.
So artists rely on what works. They rest on their laurels because the blueprint is mathematically proven to generate revenue.
Okay, I hear that, but I want to push back on these critics for a second.
Go for it.
Let's use a food analogy.
Yeah.
Think about your absolute favorite comfort food, like a really good bowl of macaroni and cheese.
Okay, I'm with you.
When you order it from your favorite spot, you do not want the chef to surprise you with some, deconstructed avant-garde version of it. You order it because you know exactly how good it will taste. You want reliability.
True.
So are critics unfairly demanding constant, groundbreaking reinvention from an artist whose fans clearly just want that reliable signature flow? I mean, 118.5 million streams strongly suggest the fans are very, very happy with the menu.
It's a great point. This raises an important question, really. I understand the mac and cheese argument, but let's take that analogy to its logical conclusion based on the album's actual structure.
Okay.
If a chef serves you your favorite bowl of mac and cheese, you're thrilled. But if that chef serves you the exact same bowl of mac and cheese 20 consecutive times over the course of a 57-minute sitting,
Okay, yeah.
you're going to get sick of it. You are going to beg for a salad or a glass of water.
That's fair.
That is what the critics are arguing. The fans are grazing, they're putting the album on shuffle, adding 3 songs to a gym playlist, and listening to it in the background while playing video games. They're taking small bites.
Well, the critic is forced to eat the whole meal in one sitting.
Exactly. The tension between a massive 20-track streaming success and critical cries of monotony is the defining conflict of modern music.
It really is.
The very length that guarantees those high streaming numbers, putting 20 tracks on an album so algorithms have more material to grab onto, is exactly what causes the album to feel entirely redundant to an active front-to-back listener like a music critic.
Wow, yeah.
If you listen to it as background music, the polished production is a perfect vibe. If you sit down and actively listen to 57 minutes of it straight, looking for an emotional narrative, the assembly line production starts to sound like one long, unbroken, monotonous sentence.
That makes total sense.
Both the fans and the critics are reacting correctly to the exact same data. They just have fundamentally different goals for what music is supposed to do.
That completely reframes the entire conversation for me. The album is doing exactly what it was engineered to do.
Exactly.
So, to wrap up this deep dive, the core tension of One of Wun is really staring us right in the face. It is a commercially undeniable, globally certified trap triumph. It utilized an incredibly smart drip-feed marketing rollout to dominate charts from the US to the UK, Canada to New Zealand.
Right.
Yet, simultaneously, it sparked very real, very valid debates about artistic stagnation and the double-edged sword of those highly polished 8-person production camps. It gave the algorithms and the casual listeners exactly what they wanted, even if it refused to give the active critics the emotional depth they hoped for.
Perfectly said. And looking ahead, there's one final forward-looking thread from our sources that we really have to pull on.
Oh, yeah?
If you look at the discography timeline, Gunna already has his next project slated for 2025. And the title of that upcoming project?
What is it?
The Last One.
Wait, really? Wow.
Yeah. So I want to leave you, the listener, with something to mull over today. He is calling his 2025 project The Last One, explicitly signaling the final chapter of this specific era or persona.
Okay.
When an artist finally puts an expiration date on a project, does the pressure of finality finally force them to dig deep and provide that lyrical boundary stretching the critics have been begging for?
Well, that's a good question.
Or, in an era of constant, relentless streaming engagement, is a title like The Last One just putting a going out of business sign in the window to trick us into streaming it 100 million more times? We will leave that to you to figure out.
Wow. We'll just have to wait until 2025 to see which it is. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Keep learning and keep listening.